beautiful. When someone studies Jesus, you fall in love with him. When you look to Christians, you hate Christianity.
And then I have one more question for you. This is just something like I've thought about. How, do you have like any resource I can look into, or do you have like any insight onto the origin of evil? Like, how did sin
Oh, yeah.
first propagate?
In a nutshell, I don't know which who can recommend. In a nutshell, it was Satan that introduced sin into the world. Because remember, the serpent tempted Adam and Eve. So human sin was passed on by Adam and Eve. But the original sinner was the serpent, Satan. He was the one who
Right.
committed the first sin. Because what is sin? In 1 John chapter 3, verse 4, 1 John chapter 3, verse 4, it says, sin is breaking the command of God. Sin is lawlessness, breaking his command. So the first sinner, the first one to disobey God and his order, is the serpent, meaning Satan. And you know where you find this taught explicitly? Here's the advantage of reading the Deuterocanonicals. If you go with just the Protestant canon, 39 Old Testament books, 27 New Testament books, the first reference to the serpent being Satan is in Revelation 12, verse 9, right?
Okay.
If I were to just go with the shorter canon, 39 Old Testament books, 27 New Testament books, I would not know that the serpent is the devil until I get to Revelation. It's in Revelation 12, verse 9, where we're told that ancient serpent is the devil. But if you read the Deuterocanonicals, in Wisdom chapter 2, verses 22 to 24, we're told that the serpent who caused Adam and Eve to sin was the devil, and he did it out of envy. So we're told that Satan's sin was envy. Here, let me show it to you. See the advantage, guys, Protestants, you're listening? The advantage of having the larger canon? You'll find information there that you don't find in the shorter canon. Here it is. Wisdom chapter 2, verses 22 to 24. Here it is. Wisdom of Solomon, which is part of the Orthodox canon and the Catholic canon, but it's not part of the Protestant canon. Here it is. Chapter 2 of Wisdom of Solomon, verses 22 to 24. And they did not know the secret purposes of God. This is talking about those who ended up killing the Son of God, which, by the way, there's a prophecy here, which I'll read a little later. Nor hope for the wages of holiness, nor discern the prize for blameless souls. For God created man for incorruption. So God didn't create you to die. God didn't create you to be mortal. He created you to be immortal and incorruptible. It's right here. See, for God created man for incorruption and made him in the image of his own eternity. So he made you to be eternal like him. So then why do you die? But through the devil's envy, death entered the world, and those who belong to his party experience it. So right there, you're told that serpent was the devil who, out of envy and hatred towards humans, tempted them to sin so they would die. So evil came from Satan disobeying God because God chose humans to be the crown of his creation, and that caused him to be envious.
I correct me if I'm wrong. I believe there might be a verse that like references us judging the angels. Does that mean angels have free will and can sin?
Yes. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verses 2 to 3 is what you're referring to, where Paul says, do you not know we will judge the world? We will judge angels? Yes, we will judge angels, because if spirit creatures were not endowed with the ability to choose, then Satan could not have chosen to rebel against God, and demons could not have chosen to rebel against God, because demons and Satan were not created evil. They were created good. They were good spirit creatures. But he endowed them, as he endowed us, with the ability to choose.
This is a problem I see in Calvinism, because they think that you can only choose based on the desires that God has given to you. But then how did Satan choose to sin?
Yeah, that's
That
where
must mean God gave Satan the desire, which is nonsense.
So, and another thing, Calvinists...
Blasphemy, actually.
Yeah, it is. But Calvinists will tell you, well, Adam and Eve were initially created in such a way that they could choose to obey God or disobey God. So they had that ability. But once they sin, their nature is corrupted. And all of us are born with a corrupt nature where we can only choose to sin. But then you press them a little further. Say, okay, so you're saying Adam and Eve, when they were created, they truly had this ability to obey God or disobey God. Because the argument of Calvinism is that once Adam and Eve sinned, they corrupted their nature, and now they pass on a corrupt human nature to their descendants, so that you and I, because now we have a corrupt nature, we cannot help but sin, and we cannot choose the things pleasing to God. But that wasn't true of Adam and Eve. But then you press them on it, say, hold on. Even though Adam and Eve had this ability to choose God or disobey God, because their nature had not been corrupted, could they have chosen not to sin against God? No, because everything is causally determined. So God had already causally determined that Adam and Eve would disobey God, that the serpent would disobey God. But if you ask them, so did God make them sin? No. They freely sinned. But could they have chosen not to sin? No, because God had determined it.
Double speak.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. Took the words out of my mouth. So excellent observation. But I don't know, in your situation, brother, I don't know. I don't want to rush you to become Orthodox or Catholic, but at the same time, you are depriving yourself of the sacraments. So you got to
I want to, I don't want to rush either, but at the same time, I think I shouldn't be out of a church.
So go to one of the churches or both and tell them your predicament. If there's an Orthodox church, tell them, look, I'm on a journey, and I know it's the Orthodox or the Catholic Church. I know it's one or the other. I haven't decided because I want to make sure I'm making the right choice, but I'm deprived of the sacraments. What would you advise me to do? Go there. Go to a local bishop and ask. I don't know. I don't know. Really, I don't know what to tell you. I know it's your situation is not ideal. I don't know what else I can tell you, brother.
Okay. Another question. Is there like in the Bible, this is something I'm curious about, like the angels being able to sin. What's there to like be? Where do they get their forgiveness from? Do they also get that from Christ?
Oh, yes. You ask an excellent question. The Bible, as far as Satan and demons are concerned, there's no forgiveness for them. They're assigned to destruction.
Yeah.
So when you say, where do they get their forgiveness? Well, the angels that are standing before God, they have not sinned. So you want to make a distinction between breaking God's command intentionally, which Michael and Gabriel do not do. Now, does that mean they're so faithful to God, they've now reached a point of becoming morally incorruptible? I really don't know. I don't know, because I know in the age to come, a new heaven, new earth, when we are resurrected in glorified bodies, we will be made transformed in such a way where we will no longer be able to corrupt ourselves by sinning. That's in the age to come. We will be changed to be morally incorruptible, physically immortal. This is what the Orthodox call theosis. We will be partakers of the nature of God in that regard, and that like God will be morally incorruptible, like God we will be physically immortal. Now, has Michael reached a point of obedience where now God has rewarded him with moral incorruptibility, or is that something that awaits the new heaven, new earth? I don't know. The Bible doesn't say. But I do know that Michael and Gabriel, if they were to sin, then they would be condemned. But I also know from Revelation, Michael remains faithful to the end, because Michael will be the one who will bar Satan from having access to heaven. So these are things that I'm not certain of the answer, because the Bible is not clear on giving me the answer. Now, I don't know how the church fathers wrestle with that issue, because the Bible is clear on this. The more you do something, the more you engage in something, the more it becomes second nature. So it's no longer something you do, something you choose. It's something it chooses for you. In other words, it becomes so ingrained in your DNA, it's now instinctive. And that's not just true with moral choices. In every field of discipline, what is the one thing they keep hammering? Repetition, right? Like in martial arts or boxing. They keep hammering repetition. Keep doing the techniques over and over again, because you want to drill it in your neural system, where now you don't have to try to hit, you just do it instinctively. It becomes second nature. Well, in the spiritual realm, when it comes to spiritual matters, When you do something so repetitively, it becomes so ingrained and engraved in you that it's no longer something you choose. It's something you do instinctively as second nature. Now, have the angels reached that level of being so faithful to God, where now they are so righteous, it's now second nature to them. They're not able to become unrighteous. I don't know. So where the Bible is silent, I have to be silent. And I don't know how the church fathers wrestle with that, grappled with that. Because if Satan was an angel or a spirit creature, and the demons are angels, that means they were created righteous and morally upright, but they were endowed with the ability to sin against God, and they did, and they corrupted themselves. So wouldn't that also apply to Michael and Gabriel? It has to. So does that mean Michael has a potentiality of sinning? Well, if they are endowed with the ability to choose to obey or disobey God, then the answer theoretically is yes. Or have they reached a level of obedience and righteousness? It's now second nature, so they are no longer able to choose to disobey. Perhaps. I don't know.
I see it as being like you're saying, or something along the lines of being filled with grace, like Mary was, right?
Yes,
So,
exactly. See, Mary's nature was such, God worked on her nature in such a way where she made free choices, but the free choices she made were always righteous because her disposition, her inclination was purified. Right? When people say, okay, was Mary forced to say yes to God? No, she freely said yes to God because her nature was such that her choices, her proclivities, her desires would always be right in accord with God's will. So, in other words, God did for Mary in advance, because she would be the God bearer, what God will do for the rest of us in the age to come.
okay. Thank you, brother.
Excellent questions, brother. You asked excellent questions. I'm proud of you because you're thinking deeply, but go to one of these churches, say, this is my dilemma. What do I do? See what they'll tell you.
Yeah. Thank you. God bless.
Bless you, brother.